Hey everyone! Welcome back to Old Charles, your go-to place for all things coin collecting. Today, we're diving deep into a classic piece from Canadian numismatics, the 1982 Canada penny. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, this video will cover everything you need to know about the 1982 Canadian 1-cent coin, its history, design, minting details, and most importantly, its current value. So, make sure to stick around till the end and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more coin content. Alright, let's start with a quick background. The Canadian penny, or 1-cent coin, was part of the Maple Leaf series for many decades. The 1982 penny is no exception. It features the iconic maple leaf twig design on the reverse, which was introduced back in 1937, created by artist G.E. Kruger Gray. Obverse features Queen Elizabeth II's portrait by Arnold Makin, used from 1965 to 1989. Reverse maple leaf twig with 2 leaves. One important thing to note about the 1982 penny is the composition. This was a transition year. The Canadian Mint started changing the metal content from predominantly copper to mostly zinc with a thin copper plating. So, the 1982 pennies actually came in 2 different versions, a copper version and a zinc version. Now, why is that important? Because the composition affects the coin's durability and sometimes its collector value. Let me break it down for you. Copper version ***, these pennies are 98% copper and weigh about 3.24 grams. Zinc version ***, these are mostly zinc, with only a thin copper plating, weighing about 2.35 grams. The Canadian Mint switched to zinc mainly because copper prices had risen dramatically, making pennies expensive to produce. This change started partway through 1982. Both versions were circulated in large numbers, so they're pretty common, but if you find a 1982 penny that's uncirculated or in mint condition, it can be worth more. So, how can you tell whether your 1982 penny is copper or zinc? Here are some simple ways. Weight test ***, the copper one is heavier, about 3.24 grams, while the zinc one is lighter, about 2.35 grams. A precise scale helps. Sound test ***, gently drop the coin on a hard surface. Copper pennies produce a higher pitched ringing sound, whereas zinc pennies have a duller thud. Magnet test ***, neither is magnetic, so if your coin sticks to a magnet, it's not genuine. If you don't have a scale, the sound test is often the easiest quick way. Now, let's get to the money question. What is the 1982 penny worth in circulated condition? Most 1982 pennies, whether copper or zinc, are only worth face value, meaning 1 cent. This is because millions were minted, and the coins are very common. However, there are some exceptions where value can increase. Uncirculated or mint condition *** coins that look brand new without any scratches or wear can fetch anywhere between $0.50 to $1.50 or more depending on the grading. Proof coins ***, these were specially made for collectors and are much rarer. A 1982 proof penny can be worth $2 to $5 or higher. Error coins ***, if you find any error coins, like double strikes, off-centers, or missing details, their value can spike significantly. Error pennies sometimes sell for $10 to $100 or more depending on rarity. But generally, the 1982 penny isn't a high-value coin for most collectors. It's more about the history and the fun of collecting Canadian coins. Besides value, the 1982 penny marks an important time in Canadian coinage history. It reflects the shift in metal use and the economic pressures of the early 1980s. Plus, with the penny now officially phased out of circulation since 2013, these coins have become nostalgic collectibles. Many collectors enjoy completing their Canadian penny sets by including the 1982 issues because of that copper-to-zinc transition. So, should you hold on to your 1982 pennies? Absolutely. Even though they're not super valuable, pennies from that era have nostalgic and collectible appeal. If you're serious about collecting Canadian coins, keep an eye out for uncirculated or proof versions, or any cool errors. Plus, they're a piece of Canadian history, and who knows? One day, the value might go up. To wrap it all up, 1982 Canadian pennies come in copper and zinc versions. Most pennies are worth only face value unless in mint or proof condition. Error pennies are your best bet for extra value. The coin is a cool collectible piece marking a metal transition in Canadian minting. Before we talk about the value and details of the 1982 Canadian penny, let's take a step back and explore its fascinating history. The Canadian penny, or 1-cent coin, has a long and rich history dating back to the very beginning of Canada's coinage. The first Canadian pennies were issued in 1858, featuring the portrait of Queen Victoria on the obverse, and various designs on the reverse over the years. However, the modern Canadian penny design that most people recognize, the maple leaf twig, was introduced in 1937 and continued almost unchanged for decades. By 1982, Canada had been using the iconic maple leaf design for 45 years. The obverse of the coin featured Queen Elizabeth II, who has been the reigning monarch since 1952. In 1982, the portrait was the second effigy of Queen Elizabeth II used on Canadian coins, designed by Arnold McKim, which appeared on pennies from 1965 through 1989. The year 1982 was significant not just for its design, but also for what was happening economically. The early 1980s saw rising commodity prices, including copper, the primary metal used in penny production. As copper prices soared, producing pennies from mostly copper became very costly for the Royal Canadian Mint. To combat this, the Mint started switching the penny's composition mid-year. Before 1982, Canadian pennies were made almost entirely of copper, which made them durable and gave them a distinctive reddish color. But starting in 1982, the Mint introduced a new penny made primarily of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. This new composition was much cheaper to produce, though it also made the coins more prone to corrosion and wear. This metal transition marked a turning point in Canadian coinage history. For the 1982 penny, both copper and zinc versions were minted, making it a unique year where two different types of pennies circulated side by side. This also created an interesting collectible challenge for coin enthusiasts, identifying which version they had. The zinc pennies were lighter and more prone to damage, so fewer survived in pristine condition compared to the copper pennies, which adds a layer of rarity to well-preserved zinc pennies. Fast forward to recent years, and the Canadian penny itself was officially discontinued from circulation in 2013. Rising production costs and the penny's declining purchasing power made it economically impractical. Since then, pennies are no longer minted, making coins like the 1982 penny nostalgic relics of Canada's monetary history. Collectors treasure the 1982 penny not just as currency but as a symbol of a changing era, both in terms of the metals used and the gradual phase out of the humble penny from Canadian life. The 1982 Canadian penny represents an important milestone, a shift from traditional copper coinage to modern cost-saving zinc, all while carrying the iconic maple leaf design and Queen Elizabeth II's portrait. It captures a snapshot of Canadian history, economics, and culture in one small coin. Now that we've talked about the history and composition of